Once again, I'm Yvanka Gilliam, and I will share with you background regarding decentralized clinical trials. A little bit more about myself. I am a doctor of pharmacology, and I have worked in clinical research for approximately 23 years. I've worked in pharma, biotech, diagnostic, and device. I've worked with the FDA in the launch of 9 oncology products within the US and emerging markets. My experience spans across, once again, pharmaceutical, biotechnology, diagnostics, CROs, device consulting, and the digital health space. I graduated with a doctorate degree of pharmacy from the University of Michigan, as well as a bachelor's degree in biology. I also have an MBA in international business from Rutgers Business School. My experience working in the clinical trial space has spanned once again over 23 years, starting with randomized clinical trials, and of course, moving into multiple facets of the randomized clinical trial space, including unblinded clinical trials and of recent, the clinical drug supply aspect of clinical research. Today, I'll talk with you a bit about access to clinical trials and the efficacy and efficiency of successful clinical trial recruitment and access. That is where decentralized trials come into play. Decentralized trials improve the accessibility and retention by moving clinical trial activities to subject homes and local surroundings. In the US, it's very common for subjects and patients to travel over 200 miles to reach a clinical research site. DCTs allow for these individuals that are in underserved communities and are within the underserved population to have access to clinical trials. They also deploy a wide range of digital technologies to collect both safety and efficacy information from subjects, once again, from the comfort of their home. One other aspect that is utilized in decentralized clinical trials is the use of local pharmacies and infusion centers for those healthcare providers to send their support staff to subjects' homes to administer infusions, but also to take vitals and monitor the clinical trial aspect of clinical research. Of course, with the advent of digital technologies for data collection, which vary study by study and include telemedicine, wearables, as well as devices, they have added to the additional aspect of accessibility for decentralized clinical trials. And we'll walk through a few of those digital technologies. Once again, with COVID-19, COVID-19 served as the catalyst for the increased adoption of DCTs, followed by greater sponsor interest and demand. With COVID-19, the adoption of DCTs increased due to patients participating in rural and areas that were not in or near clinical sites. That assisted the clinical research environment to become more flexible in their study design, to improve data quality, and of course, to improve access to suitable patients. These became the top benefits of decentralized trials and were integral in moving these COVID-19 clinical research initiatives forward. So exactly what does that mean for sponsors? For sponsors, this provides an improved recruitment speed, better outcomes, as far as many subjects are able to be retained and included in those underserved patient populations because of the accessibility of DCTs. From a timing perspective, there's a reduction in time to recruit the actual eligible subjects by improving the screenings and enrollment. Many in the US, particularly, many screening visits are conducted remotely, fully remote, as well as there are e-screenings and e-consent. This facilitate a reduction in time from one cycle of drugs to the next, specifically in rare disease and oncology trials. Of course, with cost being a factor for most sponsors, this facilitated a decrease in the screen failure rates and the recruitment of more subjects that are actually eligible and meet the eligibility criteria. So there was a reduction in cost and a reduction in protocol amendments with the reduction in screen fail rates. And of course, for our most important aspect, for patients, the reduction in travel time and patient centricity that DPTs allows provided a wonderful vehicle for an option for patients with mobility challenges and for those who lived quite a distance away and or were immobile. Once again, an option to enroll and participate in retail pharmacies via retail pharmacies, which provided location support and support staff from reference laboratories where they were able to collect many of the vital signs and many of the key laboratory tests that were needed, as well as with the option to enroll and participate from the comfort of their own homes. Patients have been very receptive to clinical trials in rural areas due to the adoption of DCT. And of course, for investigative sites, it reduces the workload on the actual clinical site, CRC, clinical research coordinators, and clinical research staff. It facilitates drug administration on away from the site, which eases the burden on the site staff. So once again, just to revisit the benefits of utilizing decentralized trials: faster trial participation and recruitment, improved clinical trial retention, greater control and convenience and comfort for patients. DCTs allow for patients to be treated at home and out of the comfort or in the comfort of their home, as well as an increased participation of diverse patients. With the FDA, there's the new FDARA Act that does facilitate and provides a means for the underserved population to be treated, because the FDARA Act does impart guidance and a law where people who are from underserved communities are to be enrolled in clinical research trials. So that is one aspect where DCT has facilitated an increase in enrollment, and it's complementary to the FDARA Act. If we take a closer look at the decentralized trials ecosystem and toolkit, it includes support for the logistics for patients to be treated at home, telemedicine platforms, e-patient portals, e-consents, e-reminders at home and local centralized labs to be collected from local laboratory facilities, and of course, e-pros for the collection of patient-reported outcomes and e-COEX, e-consents, at-home notices, and of course, the ability to monitor from remotely or from utilizing many of the devices that are currently in play. Speaking of the digital enablers of DCTs, the increased use of electronic consent devices, the increased utilization of telehealth services for visits and remote consents, as well as many of the wearable spirometers, pacemakers, ECG patches, as well as temperature tracking devices, smart gloves, insulin pumps, has facilitated a host of telehealth options. For data capture, ePro, eCOA, once again, the wearables and sensors assist with the collection of that data. And then, of course, there's the remote monitoring aspect. Patient engagement platforms and digital health platforms also are critical and key to the decentralized trial process to monitor patients from a reported outcomes perspective and from an ECOR perspective. So to take a closer look at the role that sponsors, CROs, and investigators play in ensuring compliance and safety, the sponsors are key to the justification of the decentralized elements around the collection and facilitating the collection of data from wearable tracking devices and monitoring devices. The sponsor is responsible for ensuring safe monitoring. Investigator oversight is still maintained through DCTs as well as data management. From a participant interest and engagement, sponsors, CROs, and investigators are once again key to ensuring that the right subjects are enrolled. If there are subjects that are incapable or are unable to use any of these telehealth devices, wearable devices, then they may not be the right subject to participate. And of course, there's the data quality aspect. With the utilization of wearables and many of the monitoring devices, the Fitbits, and so forth, it does facilitate a large aspect of data or big data. Being able to take that data and determine the validation or validate that data to ensure that it's accurate and ensure that patients are participating adequately in the collection of that data and that is valid is key. So these are a couple of aspects that sponsors, CROs, and investigators should ensure compliance and safety, and for the future direction, assist in gaining the momentum so that DCTs can expand outside of the U.S. and to other regions. Let's just walk through a few aspects, a deeper dive into data quality. When we look at generalizability, making sure that we capture from a breadth of patients those that have the potential to participate in DCTs, as well as those that may not be a suitable candidate. On-site versus remote, not every patient or subject is the right fit. And for certain studies, such as phase 1, those tend to be studies that are a better fit for DCTs. We've spoken about big data and being able to decipher data and the variability, as well as to validate the data and ensure its data completeness. Those are once again aspects of data quality that have come into play with the use of DCTs. A little bit about the regulatory landscape. I know that Sumitra's presented more on this, but I'll just touch upon it here. From an EMA guidance and an FDA guidance, they have approved clear roles and responsibilities around DCTs from a clinical trial oversight and what the communication plan looks like. Currently, they're both remote and in-person DCTs allowed under certain guidance, and certain guidance depicts from the sponsors, manufacturers, what the delivery of medicinal products and administration at home looks like, as well as from local pharmacies and investigative sites. There also is strict guidance around remote monitoring, and that is taking a look at the EMA guidance, but also for the FDA guidelines. Remote monitoring is being more widely used in the U.S., as well as monitoring and identification of AEs under a safety monitoring plan. The management of digital health technologies, there is guidance regarding that, and ICFs and remote ICFs are currently being used for some disease states for informed consent and in-home visits. Over the next few slides, I'll just share a bit about the technology. This is a company, Revelis, where I am the Chief Clinical Officer, and we utilize this technology through clinics, which in Consulate, which is based here in the region for delivering results and collecting optimal patient-centric data points around adverse event monitoring, the aspects of devices and wearables, and the tracking aspects. So this is a blockchain-oriented platform where we collect, we use a powerful technology in which to collect and provide that information. This once again looks at the actual DCT platform and our use of technology purpose built from ground up, as well as using a modular and customizable platform to improve data quality, compliance, and cost. What we've seen is the impact on patient recruitment and retention has been astounding. Um, with the issue with most clinical trials failing due to recruitment, we've seen improvement with decentralized trials and the use of key software and platforms. To reiterate the DCT platform and the improvement and improving the overall patient aspect with e-consent through Life Ledger, direct data collection, patient engagement, and telemedicine. These are aspects of the Revelis DCT platform that are integral in the success of DCT. So just a quick bit around the software of it all. The software that I have witnessed and worked on, I'm doing a project with Nevermind around the cloud computing aspect and the change that that has made in collecting big data and in making that data accessible to pharma sponsors and biotech, as well as the subjects, has changed the way industries collaborate and work together. It's also changed the way that data is collected and facilitated amongst within the centralized clinics and the decentralized aspect. So once the clinic transfers this data, what this system does is it creates an architecture in which this data is collected and monitored, and it makes it more secure. It does correct many of the challenges with generalizability and interoperability. And we've seen success using the current clinical trial architecture of Nevermind. Once again, it allows each clinic to allow access to decentralized analysis under rules that are established by each clinic. And this is where we see the future of decentralized analysis moving with Nevermind. Once again, thank you so very much for your attention, and I will stop sharing and entertain any questions that you may have.